Hi, guys, girls. Another crappy day on my part of the world here. It's time to have a little talk about the ego and all these misconceptions and misunderstandings about what it is, what it does, because there's a lot of different points of view when it comes down to this very specific topic. And let me start this by quoting Krishnamurti here. If you're not familiar with his work, I highly encourage you to look up his material. There's plenty of it on YouTube. Although he's been, you know, dead for quite some time now, his legacy and the value of his work remains extremely important for anyone who cares about self-development, spiritual development, and this aspect of life that is extremely valuable and important in order for us to not only grow, enhance our experience here, and understand these things. So I love this quote. It says, "The moment you stop the dream of becoming, good or bad, you awake from the dream of life." Because we have this conception of separating things, right? Compartmentalizing, good or bad. That's an example. But these things, they don't matter from the spiritual point of view, for instance, because we have the choice here of doing whatever it is that we want to do. Like it's the free will. So these things that we consider, for instance, good or bad, they're just labels that we designed here to separate one type of action from another. But when you look at it objectively, you will understand that there was no need for this separation. Because when you look at it objectively, you will know that that is just an action. Like any other action. So instead of looking at it as good or bad, look at it as an action. And obviously, because it's an action, there will be a reaction from it, a result, a repercussion. But that's just a natural response to the action itself. We just label it as good or bad. But objectively looking at it and speaking about it, it's just a choice. It's just an action. That is all that it is. And it's almost uncanny to speak of things like this in this manner. And for some people, it may be hard to understand or unfathomable, because a lot of people like to talk about there's a lot of evil in this world. There's a lot of nefarious, crazy things happening. Why is it that these things are allowed to happen and continue to happen and exist in this world, in this reality? And the answer to that question is, well, number one, you have the free will, right? Number two, when you look at it from this higher perspective, which is the perspective of creation and source and spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, whatever label you want to put it on it. We are given this free will to do with our lives as we please, as we wish. And there are many people in this reality, in this world that we live in, that choose to do all these things that we would label as terrible, bad, nasty, insane, inhumane, evil, whatever label you want to put it on it. But it doesn't matter from this higher perspective, higher point of view, because the response and the consequences, the repercussions from these choices, actions, they're not going to be pretty, they're not going to be pleasant for a lot of people, right? And then we'll question, how come some people do these things their whole lives and nothing ever happens to them? It's just the way free will works. That doesn't mean that when that person's, source, spirit, soul chooses to come back for another round to experience some other things again, that there won't be some major karmic repercussions for the things that they've done before. It's just the way the universe works and the way these things work. So the root of the self is the movement of the thought. And this is how I'm going to label the title of this video. So here's the thing with the ego. A lot of people like to talk about ego death and all these things, right? But I like to take the Krishnamurti approach with these things, because he was really good at explaining these things to people in layman terms. So we can actually understand and digest the information with a pretty good, solid understanding of what it really means. There are a lot of people out there that like to talk about the ego and treat it as it's a separate entity of us, from us, when that's really not the case. These things are a part of us. They will always be a part of us. So from my point of view and the way I understand it, there's no such thing as ego death. It's just not possible. because I don't know, it's a complicated topic to talk about, and maybe I'm not equipped with the level of knowledge to even do that. But I'm trying, though. I'm trying. I think it's important that we understand these things. Some Gnostic teachers that existed have talked about these things and went really deep into it. And based on some of these teachings, they claim that in order for ego death to happen, you first of all you need Kundalini energy through a type of intercourse that is a lot different from the type of intercourse that we're familiar with. And I'm going to leave it at that. If you want to know more about it, go do some research. So you need that energy, which is an energy that is utilized to create. And then you use that same energy to destroy, disintegrate. So based on some of those teachings, that's the only way ego death can actually happen. Do I buy that premise entirely the way it is presented to us? I don't know. I have my doubts about it, personally speaking, because from what I have experienced and from what I understand on a personal level, this is just a part of our psyche that was created by us so that we can experience this whole thing here with a level of acceptance that it will allow us to just move through the motions and live life without questioning anything. That's why I call it the construct, the avatar that is really not who we are. So think of it in terms of, and this is my opinion, okay? I'm not stating this as a fact. I want to be clear about that. But think of it in terms of the ego is when we allow ourselves to just go through life in autopilot mode, and we are never experience awareness and presence. So the moment you become to utilize presence and awareness as part of your day-to-day, that all changes. But that doesn't make the ego go away, though. The ego will still exist. It's still a part of you. There may be times where certain things are still going to trigger you in a certain manner. You know, when we're going through life and we have things being projected at us and we're projecting things onto others. It's just part of the human experience. That's why, from my point of view and from what I see and what I understand, I don't know if it's even possible for there to be such thing as ego death. And this is why I like Krishnamurti's work, because when he talks about these things, he talks a lot about how, you know, it's just, we just label things. We just label things. We love to label things. He makes it more, I don't know, intellectual, logical, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it actually is. Perhaps all this labeling, it's just a coping system. that society has created and designed. So I think we have to learn how to live life in a more philosophical manner than intellectualizing things to a certain degree where it's just all compartmentalized, but it doesn't really do anything to give us the understanding and the knowledge that is necessary to see these things for what they truly are. So, yeah, I don't know. I just felt like talking about this today for some reason. My personal point of view is that I don't think it's possible for this ego death thing to actually be a real thing. And perhaps it is possible, but what I'm saying is that humanity's current state of, of being, when you look at it from a generic perspective as a whole, humanity as a whole, I think we're living in a time that if it is possible to do something like that, it's extremely unlikely for it to occur. And maybe certain things have to happen in a certain way in order for these things to become more viable or even possible, if you get what I'm saying. It's just the way I look at it. And like I said, this is my opinion. So yeah, I'm going to leave this one at that. If you like the video, don't forget to click the like button, share, subscribe. Helps the channel grow and reach more people. And I will catch you all on the next one. Take care. Be safe. Until next time, my friends.